Welcome to the Office of the Leader of the Opposition press conference for June 8th, 2023. Allow me to introduce my panel from the right. To my right, there is none other than Mr. Ganesh Maipaul, Member of Parliament. To his right, Mr. Kibwe Copeland, candidate. To his right, Ms. Amanda Walton Desir, Member of Parliament, and to her right, Mr. Elson Lowe, economist. Today's press statement will be read by Mr. Kibwe Copeland.
Let us vote to protect our country and to send a message to the PPP government. As we approach Election Day for LGE 2023, we call on Guyanese to exercise their franchise and to cast their vote to strike a blow against the PPP desire to dominate and control all aspects of people's lives. In this LGE, we are voting against PPP's bribery and coercion of voters, PPP's incompetence in dealing with the high food prices and rising cost of living, the PPP's disregard for the plight and struggles of ordinary people across the country. We wish to remind the GCOM and the Guyanese people that in democratic societies, every ballot is secret, and it is a violation of our people's right when you coerce government, employees, and the wider citizenry to take a picture of how he or she voted to ensure people vote for the PPP. We call on GCOM to respect the law and convention and ensure no one is allowed to take his or her phone in the polling booth. Failure to enforce the law will bring the credibility of these elections into question. Great dangers and threats to both our lives and livelihoods awaits us should the PPP win any municipality or council for this instance. With a growing demand for land in urban areas, the PPP campaign in municipalities is not intended to help residents, but to control town councils so that they can raise property taxes and confiscate lands from those who can no longer pay or have outstanding debts. The PPP wants your valuable land to hand over its elite, friends, families, and favorites. The PPP believes in domination, not democracy. If allowed to grab more local power, the PPP will ruthlessly pursue their own political and ethnic agenda. The PPP, your concerns, views, problems, and demands will mean nothing. The PPP has little or no interest in protecting vendors and small businesses. Be reminded that the same day the PPP said it would respect vending, it ruthlessly tore down stalls at Providence. It destroyed stalls last Christmas in GT. The PPP will continue to harass and dislocate vendors to serve the business interests of PPP business cronies. The PPP has no plan to raise the living standard of Guyanese. No plan to raise household income above the poverty line. No plan to create good jobs for youths. No plan to transform the health and education sector. And no plan to build safe, appealing, and modern towns and communities. These are enough reasons to vote APNU and reject the PPP. As many Guyanese keep asking, if the PPP believes it is so popular, why does it need to bribe, intimidate, and coerce voters? Why does PPP need to dehumanize Guyanese by threatening to take food out of their mouths and on the mouths of their children unless they wear a red t-shirt, attend PPP meetings, and vote for them? In contrast, APNU is the party of inclusive prosperity and good governance. With regards to communities, we have spoken several times about our National Community Enhancement Plan, a plan to transform our communities into living spaces that are safe, peaceful, and pleasing, clean and healthy, physically appealing, socially inclusive, and cohesive and vibrant and beyond. Our Community Enhancement Plan targets several critical areas such as the expanding the financial, technical, and administrative capacity of village and town councils through such actions as massively increasing government subventions to all municipalities, NDCs, and village councils. conducting regular training of council staff, paying councillors and staff at the level of public servants to attract skills in general. We need to reboot local democracy. Resuscitation and expansion of rural agricultural infrastructure development program, RAID, to ensure rural communities can optimally exploit their land resources and agricultural potential. Establishing a land maintenance and enhancement work crews in NDCs and villages. These crews will be permanently employed and funded by central government and be responsible for light infrastructure, works, cleanup, sanitation, landscapes, and beautification and environmental protection. Construction of multi-purpose recreational facilities as sites for schools, sports, and community activities, and as a space where residents can recreate, exercise, play, and socialize. Retaining and reorienting our police force towards community-oriented policing. Establish a small grants program to support grassroots organized initiatives aimed at building community spirit. Such initiatives should include village fairs, festivals, and commemoration days, urban renewal and repurposing. We in the opposition do not accept that Georgetown and our tongue must remain as they are forever. They can and must be modernized. These are some of the main lines in our vision for tongues and communities. Let me add that no tongue, community, or village will be marginalized because of its voting pattern or location. This is a bad practice of the PPP that has no place in a democratic society. Come Monday, June 12th, let us vote to protect our dignity, homes, lives, and livelihoods, and our country. Let us vote for a better future. End.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the floor for questions on the press statement. Mr. Adam Harris.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's a bit rainy. It's all right. Now, Mr. Copeland, you made some interesting statements. You talked about the PPP bribery. Sir, do you consider the distribution of the money in whatever form, cash grant or otherwise, to people? Do you consider the payment to people to wear the red jersey as bribery?
Yes, it is a form of, it is by bribery. The PPP cannot, on their own, encourage persons to come out to the rallies or to the meetings. If they do not go and put a 5, 10,000 or 25,000 and also offer some food and a jersey to come out to the rallies, people would not go out to those rallies. We've spoken to many persons who said to us, you know, PPP giving us 10,000 for 3 hours. This is more than a day pay. People are only going out there, and sadly, we always tell people it's a sad thing to do. But if you don't do it, of course, they're going to utilize your money elsewhere. We do not encourage anyone to take bribery or to put on a red jersey to go out and support PPP. That's a personal choice of the persons who would have done so. But it is a way of understanding that people in Guyana right about now are strapped for cash. We understand the cost of living is high. A lot of persons are in a pressure pot in Guyana. So the PPP, which would have created these same conditions, are utilizing the money, the cash, of course, our taxpayers' money, to give to those persons who are vulnerable, to go out and to vote, and also to wear T-shirts and pose as they are the supporters for the PPP.
Adam, allow me to come in also, and forgive me for my voice. It is not at its best, but I believe we all have a responsibility, the media and political parties, to educate our nation so that they can understand better what are local government elections. It is so different from regional and general elections, and many of our citizens still require that knowledge. We have suffered not having local government elections for about 21 years, from 1994 to somewhere between 2015 and 16, because we had under the APNU two times, 2016 and 2018. People must understand, the citizens of Guyana must understand that local government elections are really 80 different elections in 80 different local authority areas. And in each one of these local authority areas, there are political parties and independent candidates that are given that opportunity to contest so that they can represent the interests of their respective communities and particularly their constituencies. What we have seen coming out from the People's Progressive Party is an attempt to nationalize or centralize local government elections to basically send a message and play with the minds of people as though we are in regional and general elections. The population must know that these elections have nothing to do with Irfan Ali, Bharat Jagdeo, Priya Manikchan, and all the others that are dominating the scenes and not allowing their local candidates to basically make a pitch. Today, we are sitting here with Mr. Kibwe Copeland, who is a candidate for local government elections, and we have restored that confidence. We have reposed that confidence in him to present to you our press statement on local government elections and what we as a political entity will do when we retake government in the local government sector. And we have that confidence in Mr. Kibwe Copeland and all other candidates that we have fielded in this local government elections. And I say to you that when you look at the elections cash grant and the other forms of bribery, one has to understand that school will close on the 7th of July, 2023. Most, if not all, of the stores that parents would normally go to buy school supplies, they don't have school supplies at this point in time. Many of the stores have signaled to me after I inquired that they have not brought in any school supplies as yet for the new school year. So it is a form of bribery. It is that form of bribery with an expectation that the people will vote resoundingly for the PPP. When you look at what is happening in terms of the whole aspect of demanding 10-day workers to come out and attend these political gatherings of the People's Progressive Party, and the demand for them to even show where is it that they have voted in order to keep their job, it is political bribery. And it is really a flagrant violation of what is enshrined in our Constitution. And I am appealing to the citizenry, I am appealing to the Guyanese people to recognize that your fundamental right requires you to protect your vote. It is your secret. And if you are going to compromise on that to satisfy a political party, then you're compromising on everything that you have as an individual. So I appeal to you, don't do that. Vote and keep your vote secret and vote against the People's Progressive Party so that we can continue to hold them accountable for their actions as they sit in central government and has that mandate to deliver to every community. If they fail to deliver to every community, we need competent people, able-bodied and competent people to stand up against them in these local authority areas and call them out so that they will be able to be exposed, deposed, and opposed for what is rightful ours as people of Guyana. Thank you.
Just
A
wanted
quick
to follow.
follow. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Thank you very much, Adam. I just wanted to point out to viewers that this cash grant, the Because We Care cash grant, being so close to local government elections, I think is definitely an indication, as my comrade is saying, that it is intended to sway voters. But we have to always remind the Guyanese people that that is a real pittance when you look at the budget, the national budget, when you look at the size of the national budget, when you look at the growth of the economy, the oil sector, and we have to demand more. Ultimately, a small Because We Care cash grant is not going to change anybody's lives. Our people-centered vision will transform people's lives. And so we want Guyanese not to buy into these few dollars that the PUP is throwing around. We want them to remember always that we are in a cost of living crisis, and PUP has again put less than 1% of the national budget towards direct costs of living mitigation. We want to remind them that during the height of the Ukraine war, Guyana was able to get $60 billion more of unexpected revenue from oil. That works out to $300,000 per household. So let us not be fooled by these few frecks that the PUP is pushing around ahead of local government election. People are entitled to much more relief, but the PUP is deliberately keeping that relief from them because they are not interested in the people of Guyana.
All right.
Yeah, a quick
Go ahead.
quick follow-up. When, and I've been walking the streets a bit, to what extent has the PPP been able to encourage the wearing of the red jerseys? In short, how much people you think in Georgetown be wearing red jerseys? About how many people, in terms of numbers, do you think are being bribed? Roughly, give me an idea.
Adam, you have to understand that not there, and I think Region 10 demonstrated it perfectly well in their statement, that the noise in the market doesn't determine the sale. And you know the situation in which people find themselves, and that is the high cost of living, an expensive way of maintenance right now in this economy, everything going up sky high and so on. I don't blame anyone for stretching out their hands and saying, you know what, give me the $5,000 you want me to put on your jersey, fair enough. But that doesn't mean that they're going to, when they go behind that ballot box or that booth and they place their X, they're putting it to the PPP. And that is why I believe the PPP themselves know that. And perhaps that is why they are currently in a campaign to tell people that they must take a picture of the way they vote and bring it so I can see to conform. Well, we are saying that that is not right. Those who want to vote for the PPPC, you enjoy that constitutional right. Those who want to vote for the APNU, you also enjoy that constitutional right. We in the APNU respect our citizens. We believe our citizens are educated enough to understand which political party and entity have their best interests at heart. And we believe that they are not gullible and will make the right choice and make the right choice for the APNU on the basis of them understanding that we are not a dictatorship that will pressure them into doing things that are very much against the Constitution and normal practice in any democracy. So I don't want to go into an estimation in terms of numbers because we have honestly not gone and did a survey or anything of this sort. But what we know is that we have received countless complaints that persons are forced to do this. We know that the 10-day workers are targeted, and they were even told that if they don't vote PPP, they will lose their jobs. So all those are threats to citizens in this country who are looking for an honest dollar. I am saying, and I believe the APNU AFC holds the same position, the parliamentary opposition, that if this government, this installed regime, believe that they have been doing so much good or so good in society, and they have been this blessing to Guyana, then there is no need for them to coerce. There's no need for them to intimidate. There is no need for them to engage in political bribery. Go to the people with honesty, go to the people with decency, and hope that they will vote for you. But don't do coercion, don't do bribery and the likes. Do like what the APNU is doing. We are going to the people with honesty and decency, and we are presenting credible candidates. They have that opportunity to do the same.
Thank you. I see the hand of Ms. Tamika Garnett. Ms. Garnett? All right. I saw the hand of Mr. Shamar Allen. I think this is channel 67.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Sorry about that. I was having
All
a
right.
problem turning on my mic.
Go ahead. Good morning.
Oh, okay. I want to start off on the same point that Mr. Harris was speaking about, the claims and accusations of persons who bribed to vote. I know Mr. Michael just spoke on it. Well, what authenticity? There's a lot of claims here and reports, allegations, accusations, speculations. What authentic or what evidence is there of any kind? Because this is something that we hear almost every election, that the PPP is buying persons to vote. What proof is there? We've never had I don't know of anyone who ever came forward eventually to say, here's the picture I took to prove that I had to vote for them, or this is how much money I collected. Does the party have anyone willing to come forward to speak about this, even anonymously? Like, where's the evidence of this claim?
All right, thank you very much, Tamika. As you would know, the APNU is a mass-based political organization that comprises of a number of political parties, the PNCR being the largest. We have established structures all across this country and membership all across this country. If my memory serves me correctly, at the last regional and general elections, according to GCOM figure, Region 1 to 10, we have seen thousands of votes towards the APNU and AFC. I say that to establish to you that we have a support base and people who communicate with our structure and who inform us as to what they are going through in their respective communities. Our phones have been inundated with messages and telephone calls reporting that this is the situation on the ground from political activists belonging to the People's Progressive Party. And that is our proof. We trust our membership, we trust our people, and we know they feed us with credible information. We know that that is happening in strongholds of our areas, and those are people who speak to us on a constant basis. There is nobody that knows the PPP better than we who sit here, and even you, the media, with their track record. And you know just as much as I do that if people are to come out and openly speak against them, the ordinary citizens, they become targets. The 10-day workers, if they should come out and speak and say openly what is it that they are going through, they will become targets, they will be fired. I can make a simple reference as last night. We were in Denhamstel campaigning, Mr. Manza Walton, Desir, and myself, and the local leaders. And directly where we always keep our meetings, the street lights were deliberately taken off. And we know it was deliberately taken off because when you look to the north, those lights were on. When you look to the south, those lights were on. When you look to the west, those lights were on. But the stretch on the east, where those are controlled by separate wiring, which we saw very clearly and vividly, they were deliberately taken off where we were standing, having our meetings. But we improvised. We had solar lights that persons brought out. We had a very large crowd there too. We had, it is clear that Den Amstel is not going to vote People's Progressive Party, but it is also clear that the vindictive behavior of the PPP is one that we cannot afford to not speak of. And as soon as we finished the meeting, lo and behold, as soon as we finished the meeting, the lights came on. That is what I'm talking about as petty politics, as wicked politics, as evil politics from the People's Progressive Party. And if they are able to do something as minor as that, can you imagine what they will do to people who depend on the little pittance that they get from them for their survival and livelihood? So we are going to continue to protect our citizenry. We are going to continue to protect the persons who inform us as to the behavior of the People's Progressive Party. And we will continue to speak out and speak up, because none of us who are sitting here are afraid of their victimization. Notwithstanding them, even they have tried it before. I was a victim of their victimization when I was dashed out of the ministry, and that case is well ventilated in the press. Amanza Walton Desir is no exception. Elson Lowe is no exception. Shanika Haynes right next to me is no exception. Even Kibwe Copeland is no exception. So everybody that you see sitting here faced the wrath of the PPP. We were faced with discrimination. We were faced with victimization, but we will continue to be the voices of the people who are afraid to openly speak because of the little pittance they are receiving.
Thank you. I see the hand of Mr. Shamar. Shamar Allen.
Hi, good morning. So on the local government election front, the vice president would have been making several accusations about the PNCR/APNU unable to manage the city. Could you offer comment on that?
Okay, can I ask you which one of the vice presidents? I know we have two vice presidents. The prime minister is the first vice president, and I know that Barrett Jagdeo is the second vice president. Which one made those comments?
VP Jagdeo.
Okay, so let me start by first saying to you that central government and local government are two different arms of governance in our country. And central government has an obligation to bring development to every part of this country. Part of local government system requires the subvention to be given to the local authority so that they can carry out their mandate. When you look at the amount of people who have failed to pay their taxes and to honor what is enshrined in law to the local authority area, more specifically the municipality of Georgetown, you will recognize that it is the government entities that are within Georgetown and some of the big businesses also that are aligned to the People's Progressive Party that has failed to pay their rates and taxes. Another failure on the part of the PPP was the revision of the valuation process of these properties and to allow the municipality to receive finances to carry out their duties. Their deliberate attempt to stop or to minimize the actions of the council for them to get to raise funds in various ways and means to satisfy the residents of Georgetown is a clear attempt of them wanting to undermine the city of Georgetown. Now you hear them saying that they should be given a chance. But let me say to you, Buxton Fowles NDC gave the PPP a chance. The last local government elections we had in 2018, the People's Progressive Party won Buxton Fowles NDC by 1 seat. So they had control in Buxton Falls from 2018 to now, have they satisfied the Buxtonians in any way, shape, or form? Have they assisted the Buxtonians with their local issues and addressed them? That is a typical example that the people of Georgetown, the people of New Amsterdam, the people of Madhya, the people of Bartica, the people of Linden should use to recognize that what the People's Progressive Party is simply going to do is they have their self-interest at heart for their friends, families, and favorites. When you look at Anna Regina, that is a tongue that is controlled by the People's Progressive Party. Have they been able to uplift the lives of the people of Anna Regina? We have on record, and it is on social media, on the Sherwin Holders page, how vendors had to protest the town council of Anna Regina. They had to go in front of the town council and protest for representation, proper representation, because Anna Regina mayor and other councillors, predominant People's Progressive Party councillors, were making the lives of those people uncomfortable. And that is not what local government is about. You look at Rose Hall. The people of Rose Hall had to protest the mayor and councillors countless times. Those are PPP mayors I'm talking about, and PPP councillors. When you look at Rosignol NDC, I remember that the chairman resigned from the NDC along with 6 other councillors, and one phone call from Jagdeo, they pulled it back. I am simply saying to the citizenry of this country that the APNU does not operate the way the PPP operate. You are electing your local leaders, and we will be there to guide the APNU representatives that you elect. But we will not impose ourselves on them. We will not dominate and take total control. That is not what we're about. We have total respect for local authority. And in the case of Georgetown, to elaborate some more, we will continue in the National Assembly to call on the government to stand up and represent and let them know that they have to produce and provide for the municipality of Georgetown in the form of subvention. We will continue to advocate for a respect to the Fiscal Transfers Act so that that formula can be applied and the rightful amount of subvention be given to the city for them to execute their function. That is what we will continue to do at the national level. May I remind you, under the APNU AFC government, all local authority areas, their subventions were increased without oil money. We did not have oil money. In 2015, when we took government, the subvention to these NDCs were merely $2 or $3 million. And when we took government, we increased all of it to $5 million without oil money. Now that we have oil money, after 3 or 4 budgets, the PPP cannot say that they have done anything to that extent. We are calling on them to recognize that they can afford to give better subventions to these local authority areas. The APNU AFC in government also, we increased the salary and stipends for our mayors and deputy mayors in the hinterland community and those on the coastlands. We increased the stipend to our overseers and our town clerks. We have also aimed at holding more local democratic organs gathering. You call it the NCLDO, National Conference on Local Democratic Organs. And those are what you call conferences that guide local government policies and directions. But Dharamlal is clearly lost, and he seems to have no interest in following up on what ought to be done within the local government ministry. And, you know, I'm going to divert and say at this point in time that we in the opposition maintain that there ought to be that commission of inquiry into the fire that occurred at the Madhya, where that dormitory was burnt down and 20 lives were unfortunately lost. And I am saying to you here that when that commission of inquiry is held, you will be shocked to know the role that Dharamlal should have played in bettering that dormitory, and we could have avoided that fire. And you will also be shocked to know how many other ministers are deeply involved in it. There has to be a reason why Irfan made the noise and suddenly he's not making the noise. But we are calling for that COI because we know that there are a lot to be unearthed.
Thank you. I have here two questions from Mr. Mark Benchcott, who is unable to speak through our Zoom. He says the two questions are either from Mr. Ganesh Maipal or Kibwe Copeland. Now, the first question says, apart from the PPP's red T-shirt, failure to lower Guyanese, what makes the APNU/PNC different in your campaign and policies to make our municipalities and regions better, having over 2 decades of PPP failure to do anything substantial?
I don't want to dominate. I don't know if
Sorry, you
Kibwe
can
wants to go, but I want to answer that by simply saying, first of all, that our respect for our local leaders is paramount. We have respect for the local leaders because the local leaders guide us from their local level. They are the ones who interact with their community. They are the ones who know what is going on at that level, and they will tell us. We will not be, it's not a top-down approach, it's a bottom-up approach that we have in the coalition because the masses on the ground must guide us in that direction. So the difference with us from the PPP is mainly us having respect for our local leaders and recognizing that we give them the chance to lead and for them to answer to their constituents at the level of local government elections.
And just to add to what Ganesh Maipal would have said, the APNU has pushed for boots on the ground, knocking door to door. We are in touch. The candidates of the APNU are in touch with the communities. Our approach is to meet the people, is to understand the issues and to give representation. There's no form of bribery, there's no form of trickery or no form of coercion used to get persons to vote or to support the APNU. If you look at the landmass of Guyana, 83,000 square miles and a population of 738,000 people, it's hard to impossible for any central body to effectively disseminate resources or to give proper management to this country. That is why local organs or local municipalities with local elected leaders are put in place. If you analyze the PPP, their way of governance is to do everything from the top. Every decision will be made from the Freedom House, and it'll be sent out for anybody who's at the council, because most of the candidates, you don't hear from them. At the rallies, you hear from maybe Ramson, you hear from Jack Dew, you hear from Infinali, but you don't hear from the candidates because they're mute. They don't have the ability to speak because they don't understand the issues. They don't know what are the problems in the community, and they're not in touch with the community. So basically, they're using a leadership style that speaks from the top down, whereby we're pushing the PPP's agenda. We're trying to bribe persons with money. We're trying to get persons to go out and vote and to take out pictures to get a large sum of money, all kinds of trickery. The APNU is for the people. And there's a reason why we've been a stronghold in Georgetown, New Amsterdam, in Linden for 57 years. There's a reason. Because these areas, people are more than wise that the PPP has no interest in their upbringing or their livelihood. It's all about coercion, it's all about controlling the land, it's all about taking over the properties and giving to their friends and family. And the APNU, our story, our position is far different. It's people-centered, it's inclusive, and I believe that there's a great distinct between us and the PPP, and ours is more approachable and more connected to the people and development in this country.
His second question is, how confident are you about the transparent and democratic process of GCOM on elections day?
Well, honestly, I am not confident with GCOM and its operation, and I believe my comrades here at the table and the APNU also hold that belief that GCOM is not to be fully trusted with the process. And that is because in recent times we have recognized a number of changes that are occurring and a number of actions that are occurring that are of questionable nature. Like, for example, this cell phone issue that we talk about people taking pictures at the polling booth. We have called on GCOM to take a stance on that, and we have not heard anything from them. I mean, that is something that's as simple as that. We still believe that Claudette Singh is unfit for chairman of GCOM, and we maintain that, and we will continue to call for her resignation. She has failed this nation miserably, and I don't think I have any apologies for that. We cannot pull ourselves out because we have to protect our people, we have to protect our interests, which is our base, and we have to protect our need to continue to strongly represent those who believe strongly in us, and we will continue to hold the line of battle. We will appeal and do what is necessary in terms of our representation at the level of these polling stations. That is our scrutineers and so on, to put on an extra eye or to put on 2 or 3 extra eyes and be vigilant and look out for the mischievous set of people that are that can come and create mayhem and may very well be facilitated by GCOM. Another reason why we don't trust GCOM and its approach is that we objected strongly to the dead people's signature and the fraudulent behavior of the People's Progressive Party leading up to these elections, where candidates had to secure signatures for as backers so that they can be endorsed. And we have unearthed a number of signatures that should not have been there. We objected to the respective GCOM officers, and nothing of substance came out from GCOM on that. They still continue to proceed along the lines of holding local government elections without correcting those errors. So our confidence level in GCOM is very low, but we will continue to appeal to our agents to have their eyes open and look for the mischief makers that are very well going to be facilitated by some of those staff.
I have a final question from Mr. Penchka. He asked is how would folks know which independent group or candidates to vote for in the areas that the AP and European did not contest?
Well, like any elections, Mark, persons who are contesting has an obligation to sell themselves. And these persons who are campaigning as independent candidates, they have that responsibility. They are supposed to go on the ground, knock at every door, sell themselves, and promote their symbol. I know that there are many groups that are contesting independently that enjoys the confidence of the APNU because the characters in those groups, we know them to be honest and decent people. I know, for example, in the Mora Parika NDC in Region 3, they have this soccer plant, the soccer tree, as their symbol. A group of people decided to contest independent of the big wings, and they said they're going as the soccer tree, and we have no problem with them, and we have no problem with people voting them because the characters there are honest and decent people. We know, for example, the Hague Blankenburg NDC, which encompasses Den Amstel, and they invited us yesterday to be a part of their public meeting. They are going as the light bulb. We know that, for example, the Malgretoot Meerzorgen NDC, which encompasses the La Parfaite Harmony area in Region 3, their symbol is the eagle. And they have said to me that they are prepared to go independent and they would like to field some candidates, which they asked for my opinion. And we have no issue with those candidates. We believe they're honest and decent people and they can represent the interest of their communities. And I think Two Flood Potential also, which encompasses good intent. They have the sugar cane with a cutlass across it. and they said they would like to go independent also. These are groups that ask us in the APNU not to contest in these respective areas because they will like to do it independently. And as I said to you, we have a great deal of respect for local government elections. It is about the locals in their respective constituencies, in their respective local authority areas, given that free chance to reign, given that free chance to campaign and to show that they're competent enough to represent the interests of their communities. And we respect that. And those who have asked us to do it independently and not to contest with them so that the votes can split, we have pulled back and allowed them to go forward. That is what local government elections is about, having that respect for them. There are other communities that ask us to represent them strongly and contest, and that is why you see us contesting strongly in some other communities under the hands of the APNU. But mind you, we enjoy the support and confidence across this entire country, even in zones that we are not contesting.
All right, thank you. I have a question. The hand is raised up by Mr. Jermaine Abel. I will ask that he states his media house as we proceed.
Hi, good day, everyone. Jermaine Abel, Open Media in St. Kitts. I have a couple of questions. One, you guys kept referencing the fact that there were a lot of bribery, quote unquote, bribery going on, but you have not necessarily presented a lot of supporting evidence to those suggestions and allegations. So what I want to know specifically from you guys would be, what sort of mechanisms are you putting in place to, one, document, if any, because from my recollection, bribery is a crime. So is there any mechanism in place that the APNU, AFC, the opposition is taking to document and present if there are 50 cases of bribery going on? These are what we found. We actually have the evidence to present, whether to the police, GCOM, or whomever it is, to investigate these specific cases of bribery when the local government elections are completed. My second question has to do specifically with confidence. You've been referencing a lot also the fact that there's high inflation and all the necessary issues surrounding that. But there's also some concern from members of the public and even your supporters that the party, the opposition, the coalition is not necessarily doing enough as an opposition to represent their interests. So what would you tell the public out there about to reassure them of the confidence that the opposition, the combined opposition, has and will be making quote unquote proper representation for them, specifically when it comes to the major issues that they have?
If you want to jump in at any time, you can do.
Thank you, Mr. Abel from St. Kitts. I heard you saying that you're from St. Kitts, so I'm going to assume that perhaps you don't know how much of a political influence the government has over our state entities and how problematic it is to get the police force to sometimes operate within the best interest of the law. Sometimes we have political abuse of trying to hurt people and so on easily, victimization and the likes and so on. And I remember us coining a slogan some time back that police brutality must stop, starting with the top cop. And I think you may understand clearly what I am saying there. But as I said earlier, perhaps you may have joined late, we have an established party and structure across our entire country with people who communicate with us regularly, and they use that structure to transmit messages to our head office, and they inform us of what is happening in their communities. I spoke earlier about the cash grant being a form of bribery because of the time that the Minister of Education, Priya Manikchan, has sought to distribute it. And I maintain that at this present time, stores don't even have school supplies. So when parents collect the $40,000, there isn't that flow of one understanding that they are going to buy school supplies right now. We know in this country, when you close school on the 7th of July, the next date for reopening will be till in September. And most of the stores, they dominate the market with school supplies in August. So perhaps the question should be asked, why could you not have distributed the cash grant the last week of school, given that the second to last week normally would be exam periods and so on? In terms of the other aspects of bribery, we continue to receive the information. We will be documenting it. I can say that much, but I'm not going to say that we will put names to the documentation as yet, unless we sit and iron it out at our party level, because again, what is paramount for us is to protect the people who have reposed confidence in us. In reference to your confidence questions about us not doing enough to to represent their interests, Guyana is right now faced with so many problems since the People's Progressive Party came to government. Every single day, it's a new issue. When you open the newspaper, when you check on social media, and when you look at what is happening in it, every single day, a new issue arises. And sometimes you don't want to lose focus on the old issue that was not addressed as you see new issues being birthed. Our country is plagued with so many problems that I can understand the people saying that they are not getting enough representation from the opposition. I can understand that statement. But I know that the opposition, the parliamentary opposition, is tackling issues upon issues upon issues, and they are not giving up, notwithstanding the limited resources that we have. Imagine in an oil-rich economy where the budget has increased from what it was under the APNU, 230 billion or thereabout under the APNU. It is now 500 and something billion dollars or more. And I think the most recent one was 700 plus billion dollars. And can you imagine that the office of the leader of the opposition simply gets $35 million? That is what you have to deal with as a PPP government, wanting or giving to an opposition, but we still make do. We still make do. We still continue to fight. We still continue to represent, and we will continue to do that over and over and over for our people because their interest is important to us. I think my sister Amanza may want to say something at this point in time too.
No, I just wanted to add what Mr. Maipal would have said. And Mr. Rebel, look, I understand your question is really a reasonable one that presupposes a functioning system. The reality is that in Guyana, we do not have a functioning or properly functioning system. I'll give you an example. You referenced the issues of fraud and all of the reports. It is documented that a family made very public the fact that their dead mother's signature appeared on a nomination list. The vice president, the second vice president of this country, is on record as publicly apologizing for the fact that this woman's signature was forged. Nothing has come of that. That is forgery. That is an offense. That apology is an admission that an offense was committed. But nothing has happened. So I want you to understand that that is the environment within which we function. So do not presuppose that even if these matters were recorded, and I know there are some people who have come up to us because I personally have been in the field receiving those complaints, that something will be done about it. So that's the first thing I wanna say. The other issue that I wanna bring to your attention is this issue of representation. We as a parliamentary opposition are on record as pointing out the fact that parliamentary democracy in Guyana is a thing of the past. As a parliamentary opposition, there are certain avenues available to us to represent the interests of our people. Motions, questions to ministers. And if you check the records, you will see us on record bringing to this nation's attention that motions that we have submitted, the speaker disallows. We've had motions on cost of living. We have had motions on very, very important matters of urgent that needed urgent attention, and he deemed them non-important. We have a number of questions to ministers that we have gotten answers like, check, the minister spoke about it at a particular conference. And so the avenues available for the parliamentary opposition are all being, I would want to say, deliberately thwarted. So I want to state very, very clearly that when it comes to representing the people of Guyana and their interests, we are on record as doing so. The reality is, however, we are faced with a government that has assumed the posture of dictatorship, and every day they provide evidence of this behavior. When you say that they are a creeping dictatorship, well, a full-blown dictatorship now, when you say, or nationals of Guyana would say on the international scene that this is an apartheid state, you see them providing evidence of it every day. As a parliamentary opposition, we have been very careful to use every legitimate means at our disposal to represent our people's interests, and we are committed to so doing. I agree that we will have to continue to advocate, and this is why it is important that international media houses like yourself, that you're present at these press conferences so that we are able to present to you an alternative view and the perspective from our side of the table. So I just wanted to make those points that parliamentary democracy in Guyana is completely dead, but we have to continue to represent the interests of our people, and we will continue to do so fiercely. And secondly, the administration of justice, the legal system in Guyana has been completely politicized. The police force, and we are on record, press conference after press conference, indicating that the politicization of the police force is leaving Guyanese in a state of terror, in a state of helplessness, and in a state of hopelessness. And we will continue to point that out because, like I said, our focus has been on utilizing the legitimate avenues. But like I point out to us all the time, even the UN Declaration of Human Rights recognizes that there is a limit as to what people can take. And so we will continue our work on the ground.
Mr.
Just
Abel,
want to follow up on that.
just let me make this point. Mr. Abel, on that same issue of police and investigating, just not too far in the distant past, and that sounds somewhat contradictory, but not too far in the past, I should say. You would recall, and I'm sure you do, because it was broadcast worldwide, the issue surrounding our second Vice President, Jagdeo, and his interview that he had with Vice News, where it was mentioned that the news report basically unearthed that there is some relationship between a Mr. Su and Jagdeo. And we have constantly called on the police to carry out an investigation in this matter because of what came out from that recording. And to date, the police cannot do anything or refuses to do anything. So the political environment in Guyana, where it comes to political interference in the operation of these state entities like the Guyana Police Force and other agencies that are responsible to uphold the rule of law, it is worrying. We are in a worrying situation. When you could have ministers of government instructing these independent offices on how to function, it is worrying. You look at the Director of Public Prosecution Office, how quickly sometimes you get an advice from that office, and on matters relating to the government, you have to wait and wait and wait until sometimes it is swept under the carpet. When you look at the other offices that are supposed to be independent, the Commissioner of Information, held by a political lackey of the PPP, Charles Ramson Sr., his son is a minister of the PPP government. When you write him and you request information from him, you get an entire letter that basically circumvents the entire issue and you don't get no proper reply. When you look at the other offices, I referenced the Commissioner of Police. There are other independent organizations that are independent offices in this country that are not allowed to function independently because of political interference. And you may ask, how is it that we intend to correct this? We have to continue to expose it. That's the first thing. And secondly, we will continue to advocate at the National Assembly level for us to respect the authority and the independence of these offices that they're supposed to enjoy. The Parliament office is is heavily politicized also. The Parliament office, sometimes when you look at it, how it operates, you're shocked basically. And the third thing that has to happen, the citizenry, the people, the electorate, they have to come out and they have to use that powerful tool that this democracy has given to them, that opportunity to vote against the behavior of the People's Progressive Party. And they must vote like a boss and send that strong message against this full-blown dictatorship that we have in Guyana.
And just quickly to add to what Mike Powell has said, instead the police force, of course, investigating real crimes, they use against the people of this country. Only recently we saw what happened in Hillfoot, whereby the police force were used to brutalize people, break down homes. We saw what happened not too long ago in Moko, whereby they destroyed properties, buried pigs, take away people's livelihood. And the same goes on into Georgetown. At the Georgetown Hospital, we removed vendors on the East Bank, around Diamond area, they removed vendors as well. So instead of police force being used to actually investigate real crimes like the bribery or the allegations against the VP, Jack Dio, or other allegations like, for example, Amanzo Walton would have spoke about the fraud of signatures of people who are dead, who passed, deceased. Those are some of the issues that we've seen, and until today we see no justice, but people are feeling the brutal abuse by our police officers. Additionally to that, when we speak about bribery, I know right about now in Georgetown, I know they have a meeting, I think, coming up in Roxanne area, Roxanne Gardens. That is in my constituency 14. And I've had several reports of people being bribed, people collecting money, small contracts in this last phase towards elections being awarded to people who have no business registration, etc., just to do this cleaning work. It's a form of bribery. In constituency 14, a field started only 2 days ago. And today the field, the street, and that is in my street where I live, is a mess. And the drainage in South, the drainage is a main problem, but they have not done anything towards the drainage. They want to do a play field to appease the people, say, look, we want to bring forward development. We've seen the trick of the PPP for years, 23 years and 3 years counting. And we understand their tactics. It is not going to work. People are smart enough in Georgetown, in New Amsterdam, in Linden, in Bartica to understand their wicked attempts. And on 12th of June, they will vote solidly for the APNU.
Just to follow up on that, I think the other perspective that we want to put out there is I think that very often there's a perception or a narrative put out that the opposition is not effective. And to my mind, one of the things that we must do is to take credit for our successes. We forced the government to raise the minimum wage. The last thing I remember seeing at the press conference was that Guyanese were filled with disgust at the fact that the government was keeping that minimum wage low when the country was booming. We forced the government to lower the price of gasoline. We forced the government to audit the offshore oil expenses they were not going to audit. We worked along with civil society to get many of these things done. We have also gotten the government to release documents that they did not want to release. We've gotten the government to commit to mechanisms within the oil and gas sector that they did not want to commit to. Now we're going to see these audits produced, and we're going to examine these audits. Now, the point of it therefore being that we can work with civil society. We have worked with civil society, with newspapers, by educating Guyanese about various important issues, because we understand that you can pressure this government to do the right thing. And one of the things that we can talk about is, in the midst of this cost of living crisis, the government was not going to raise the minimum wage. We saw the tripartite committee, a committee that included the government, included labor unions, included businesses. That committee said that the minimum wage could be raised. Government dragged the feet. And we spoke on it, press conference after press conference, until they raised the minimum wage. And that has resulted in a substantial benefit to Guyanese in the midst of a cost of living crisis. And so it is not that, I think there's this perception or there's this narrative put out there, the opposition is not effective. We have helped people concretely, and we will continue to help people concretely, and we will continue to light a fire under the government on a wide range of issues. And so that's something that I think we also need to say.
I want to add, as we're talking about successes, the issue of biometrics and voting. We have been on record as constantly reiterating the need for biometrics. Every engagement that we've had with the diplomatic community, with international organizations, we made the call that at a minimum we must have biometrics at the place of poll. And recently, you saw the vice president coming out to say that he has no problem with biometrics at the place of poll, when in fact his ministers would have staunchly refused to even consider it, and they brought extraneous considerations of cost. When we said to them, look, this is very simple technology, it's available all over the world. And so we were able to erode based on the arguments that we would have put forward, to the point now that there is a public commitment that there should be biometrics at the place of poll. So I think we need to strip away the propaganda, and we need to continue to look at this objectively. And you'll see that the opposition has recorded significant successes on some very, very key issues.
Thank you. I think Mr. Abel has one final question. He can go ahead. And then we'll take the last two questions.
Yeah, thanks for the extensive discussion on the two questions for the last 25 minutes. But my general concern about the topic specifically surrounding the issue of quote unquote bribery is that as reporters, we all in this room would carry the news that, you know, the opposition is complaining of quote unquote bribery, but we don't have any numbers or specifically where this is allegedly occurring and how many cases of it has been found so far, not specifically the identities of those who will be making the claims, but it's just that we don't have any evidence to say that this specifically is what occurred. So the concern actually is, where specifically documentation from the opposition that says this is what we found, and these are the amount of cases that we would have seen occurring so far in terms of complaints that would have reached us. But from what I'm gathering from the opposition here is that you guys are now in the process of doing that. So you have this press conference, but you do not have the numbers or the quote unquote facts to say that this is what we have recorded happening so far.
Look,
Mr.
Mr. Abel, Ganesh, 1 second. Mr. Abel, I think it's very important that you understand the context in which we are operating. And again, I think you might be at a disadvantage because, look, in the Caribbean islands, etc., the police, to their credit, they function in a certain way. Law enforcement, investigative bodies function in a certain way. What we are saying is that every constituency, every region that we have traveled to, we have received these complaints. And what we are told is, for example, MP, I have 2 children. This is what I was told. This is a contract worker that I have to take my phone into the phone booth and photograph that I voted for them, or I will not be getting a job. MP, please don't say that I said, because it places my livelihood in jeopardy. And there are thousands of cases across the nation. And so I wanted to point out to you that we have a duty to protect the people who give us information and who will say to us, this is the reality. When you're talking, and we referenced it earlier in our press conference, the protective mechanism for these persons is not to say they're 50, 100, or 5,000 cases, but it is for GCOM to enforce the democratic principle and the law and say that cell phones are not allowed. That is the course of action that we must take, rather than putting people and their lives and livelihoods at risk. Because I think you have to understand the context in which we operate. We have had a situation where the police, people no longer view the police as their friend. And that is the culture in which we operate. So I wanted to make that very, very clear, that instead of putting people on the firing line, we can tackle this another way by ensuring that GCOM, and GCOM must ensure, based on its constitutional obligation for free, fair, and transparent elections, that there is a requirement that people do not take their cell phones into the phone booth. And so that is where I would want to take our attention at this time.
And just a minute on it, not to go for the 25 minutes, Mr. Abel, because I know sometimes information, we have so much we have to spread it too. But I want to tell you that in Region 1, the comrades of Region 1 reported to us that Mr. Colin Crowell, the Minister of Housing and Water, passed that instruction down to their cronies that are spreading it to people. In Region 2, it is Nigel Dharamlal that passed that instruction to the people of Region 2. In Region 3, it is Priya Manikchan and Deodat Indar. In Region 5, it is Sonia Parag. In Region 6, it's Zulfikar Mustafa. Though in Region 7, it's Gail Teixeira. In Region 10, it is Hugh Todd. Those are the names that the people in these respective regions keep calling, that are coming into their areas, that are walking and saying XYZ ought to be done. And those are all ministers of the government that are going into these regions and causing that level of confusion amongst the people. So I have called their names for them to know that we are aware of their actions. And in Georgetown, you have Mark Phillips and Barrett Jagdeo doing the same, going around all over the place. The people are reporting it to us. They're calling us, they're messaging us, they're meeting with us when we go on the ground, and they're telling us what these people are coming into their regions and what they're doing.
All right. At this time, you're welcome. I'll take the last 2 questions as we are pressed for time. I'll take Ms. Tamika Garnett, and then I'll take Mr. Adam Harris. Ms. Garnet.
Hi. A quick question. I have two questions to all this one. There has been recent controversy over Apple's choice to return Mr. Winston Harding as a candidate, given allegations leveled against him since 2016 for an issue from previous years. Can you say why did Apple, after pulling support for Mr. Harding in 2016, now return that support this year, and if there's any concerns over how this situation seems the party? Secondly, Mr. Michael mentioned that the party has no confidence in the decision. This is something the party has to say. Particularly given the fact that she continues to rule against the Apple in several things brought before the commission. Can you say what is Apple's confidence in the Chief Justice in light of her ruling against the party in their two elections, two cases that they brought to try to stop the election, and how the party feels about losing these two cases and not being able to stop the election? Can you see if the party has any plans to do anything else at this final hour to hamper the going forward of the elections, or will the party just be moving forward with the election?
When it comes to Winston Harding, he was not convicted for any crime. It was an alleged. It's bare allegations, and that is as much we would say when it comes to that. In the constituency 13, our work has been done. We have been on the ground, and the people are very supportive of our party and the candidate. I believe, of course, much has been going around. We understand how such news can be pushed around and even propaganda uses propaganda against our campaign. But we want to show persons that constituency 13 and Winston Harding will be elected after June the 12th.
I think as well on the issue of the chairman of GCOM and the Chief Justice, it's really comparing apples and oranges. They're two different things altogether. Look, it is very, very important that for Guyana as a young nation, that we continue to bring matters to the court so that we can continue the development of our jurisprudence and have the law and certain positions clarified. So that where we see that there is a legitimate legal question that needs to be clarified, interpreted, or enforced, perhaps, we will continue to utilize the court as a legal, legitimate avenue to have these matters settled. It only redounds to the growth and the robustness of our jurisprudence. So that is what we will say to that. As it relates to the chair of GCOM, we have continuously bemoaned the partisan nature in which she votes. The Chief Justice, in giving decisions, she will give the legal precedent, the basis upon which she came to her decision. So like I said, it's comparing apples and oranges. The chairman of GCOM, however, routinely fails to give reasons for her decisions. And we have, in stark contrast to the way she chairs, the chairmanship of Steve Surujbali, who chaired GCOM, being the first among equals as commissioners, in more of an approach that fostered consensus, so that it was very, very rarely that he used his casting vote for a decision, but he facilitated a space where commissioners on both sides of the table could come together, could work through the issues, and come to a position that would be for the benefit of the people of Guyana. We are not seeing that in the current commissioner of GCOM. And as a result, we have lost confidence in her. And we believe that it is time that we have a new chair of GCOM.
And let me add to the Winston Harding matter that Timika raised. Let me say that when these issues arose, when the allegations were brought, we recognized the seriousness of it, and that is why in 2016 we pulled him off. The matter went to the court, and I think it was subsequently thrown out, if I'm guided correctly. And he expressed an interest to participate, and and knowing that the case has been thrown out and that these allegations no longer linger against him, he was given the opportunity. Quite a difference between how the APNU operate versus how the PPPC operate, because Mr. Mika, you would know that the PPPC has a convict sitting in the National Assembly. And there was also an allegation, I think it was Mr. Mark Benchcop that walked around this entire Georgetown playing a recording between that very convict and a child, where the allegations of soliciting a conversation that was unbecoming then. And that person is sitting in the National Assembly belonging to the People's Progressive Party. So we are a different political party. We allow the system to take its course and the structure to work, and we don't encourage convicts and other persons of questionable characters to hold these senior offices and so on. And when a competent course of court pronounces, it is respected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, but say how the party feels about losing the 2 court cases and what's the next step forward?
Look,
Those cases are not in the court still.
Look, in any case that you bring, you win or you lose. Anil Nandlal has lost a number of cases before the court. How does he feel about that? I think the point is neither here nor there. The point is that for our efforts, we are now a lot more sure about what the law says. And that is very, very important, like I said, in defining and growing our jurisprudence. So that's our position on that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Adam Harris.
Yes, sorry. Quickly. Comrade Amanda Walton, what has been your reaction since you learned about this woman who was placed in a cell with a man after the Hillfoot protests and demonstration? That is just one quick one. I would like to ask either Mr. Maipal or Mr. Copeland to comment on the party's preparedness for the local government in Georgetown, based on the fact that many of us aren't sure about our candidates, although some of you can turn up and vote, whether we know candidate or not, we voted for a simple BNK. But has a lot been done by these candidates in given constituencies to meet with the electorate?
Shall I? Yes, well, let me assure you, Mr. Harris, that it is not a matter that we intend to be allowed to be swept under the carpet. These, the residents of Hillfoot, and in particular, the female that was incarcerated in a cell for 2 days and had to spend 2 nights in a cell with an unknown male, she has legal representation. And as such, the matter is going to be fully ventilated. So I'll say, be on the lookout for the next steps. I will not want to announce what they are here because, of course, we understand the context in which we are operating here in Guyana.
Let me say, Adam, that our candidates, our constituency representatives, and our PR representatives in these local government elections continue to knock on doors, continue to reach with citizens in their constituencies and elsewhere. Wherever the people are, they are going to them. Maybe it's quite unfortunate that nobody knocked on your door as yet. But I must remind you that there are still 2-3 days left for campaigning, and perhaps Kibwe Copeland will visit you very soon because he's a candidate, and hopefully he convince you to vote for the palm of the hands with all the symbols in it. And maybe you can assist us in ensuring that everybody you're associated with also understand the importance of voting for the palm of the hands, the APNU.
And just to add quickly as well, we understand that this election was a pushback election. As we had one date change to another date. And when we confirmed our candidates after the nomination day on April 17th, our candidates hit the ground running. Of course, some certain constituencies are larger than some. A lot of work has been done. I know for sure I've been working along with all the candidates. Work has been done. For persons who have not seen our candidates, there's a situation whereby persons are not home, many candidates are there. Some are working different shifts. And what we try to do as much as possible is to utilize both on-the-ground campaign and social media campaign. You know, a lot of times we send around flyers, we send around pictures, and we even connect people via phone, etc., to meet all of our candidates. Yes, there might be some people who might not see your candidates at the end of the day because of the election day was made June the 12th, Monday. But we assure you that if you make any contact to the APNU, we will be able to forward you with either a number or make contact directly to that candidate, and you'll have some kind of satisfaction. And of course, lastly,
You're not going to look for me.
Adam, vote wisely.
Vote wisely.
Vote wisely, Adam.
All right, thank you so much. With that, I want to thank our media personnel for joining us today and our viewers as well on social media. And we do hope that you have a wonderful afternoon.
Recording stopped.
I mean, what nonsense is the whole